to think about, our modern world, which is generally very busy and very, could be perceived chaotic, or, naturally us wanting love or wanting to have somewhere safe to feel that we live in and things like that. How would you like, or what, not even a how or a practice or at all, nothing even like that, what would you say for people that are now questioning everything of almost like, so what about the job, what about the love, what about the friendships and things like that, just so that we can really be relatable and
Yeah, I'd love that.
yeah.
It's a great question and an important question. And the answer is simple. With these types of wisdom, there is there's no need for me to try to search for anyone to accept these types of wisdom, because these wisdom are an invitation. So I'm not trying to convince you of any truth. I'm only trying to help you remember the truth, the universal wisdom of grace, of divine compassion, and divine love. And any person that's in the circle, any awakened being in history that's written books or done scripture, you'll see this same universal truth flowing through. But the thing is, it's not up to you and me to convince anybody of these things. And a lot of these truths are sacred to the point that there has to be a worthiness of the vessel. And I don't say that out of ego, but the vessel needs to be worthy to understand higher truths. So that's how I look at it. And again, we don't need to convince everyone. We don't need to convince anyone. But if enough people see us as a mirror of this divine wisdom, the whole globe will start running on love. Because we only need a certain amount of people. We don't need everyone, because not everyone is experiencing 7 versions of themselves. Some people are experiencing 3 versions of themselves, and then most people are experiencing 0 versions of themselves because they've never connected to the first crossroad as their higher self. So there's no, so that's how I look at it. Is if you speak to awakened beings, people who've achieved enlightenment, they'll tell you that there's no teachings, there's no coachings, there's no following. There is only inner wisdom that we all know. So what I tell people, or don't tell them, but I ask them, what's your stillness practice? Because your stillness practice is more important than your gym practice, than all the other illusions. It's the most important journey of this lifetime, is the journey of your stillness and your silence. So that's what I help encourage people, is just spend time alone in nature, sit with trees, as opposed to don't sit with preachers, or sit with both, but sit with trees and tell all your trauma to the tree, and the tree will give you all the wisdom. So that's the universal truth for me, is silence and stillness. And anyone who goes to silence and stillness will hear the same truth. And it's not your truth, it's not my truth, because that's all ego. There is only the truth, the universal truth.
And
so thank you for that reflection and remembering.
You're welcome. And I think if we actually break it down, then more like a literal, going to a tree and speaking to it. Think about this. I really want people to think about this. Why do we go for a walk? Why do we sit on that bench under a tree? And okay, we might not be physically saying aloud, but we are churning over things, and we have insights, or we have ideas, or maybe I should go and contact her, or maybe I should go and do this. So I think, again, it's it's just really, it's all interpretation. We're kind of all doing it anyway. So thank you for that. And and I guess the big thing that I got from your beautiful story was, it's knowing that yes, you are worthy of that love of having children and having, whatever you want in this experience, this whatever we want to call it, but it doesn't belong to you. It's not yours. Everything and everyone has their own path and their own journey, and that's what I felt from it. And I know like you're probably going to say that there's no answer to it anyway, but because I think, especially growing up, there was always this almost like commitment as like a owning, where actually I think that's really important as well, is to still be you and honor you, but come together in a union with people and come together in a union with animals. Because and again, this is not saying anything about people that own animals now, but I very much was brought up with dogs, particularly our pets. I never saw stray dogs, and I remember the first time I ever saw what I was explaining earlier of these dogs looking unkept and hungry, and it broke my heart, and I was like, they need to be saved, they need to be taken care of. But now actually I see a very different side of it, of actually I don't like the idea, and there's no right or wrong again, but I don't like the idea of an animal just continuously being in a home, whereas I see now these animals are living their best life.
Absolutely.
So I know that was a lot that I just mentioned, but I think it's just goes back to that. Yes, okay, you might want that cute dog, but essentially that dog, and I know there'll be people like, no, it does. It lives in my house and I paid for it, but it doesn't belong to us.
No, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. It is just another mirror. That's how I look at animals, just being another divine mirror, because animals, they communicate with us in a different way than humans. Even though humans have a lot of, they have all the blessings of the divine, they are forgetting why they came here and what's actually happening in this present moment, what's actually happening on this earth. Where animals, they live in the present moment. They live in that peacefulness, that happiness, that blissfulness, that divine love. They live there, and they don't have concept of time or death, and it's just wonderful to connect. Like my parents just got a puppy yesterday, so I spent all of last night playing with this puppy, and he was biting my nose with joy and love. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And the second I picked him up and I said, hey, you're smaller than me, the puppy knew. He said, oh, okay, I'm going to stop biting your nose now.
Yeah.
So there's this beautiful conversation going on with animals and humans. But I think the hopefulness and the hopefulness that we have for human connection, because that's what you're really speaking about here. You're saying, Nicholas, how do we get the humans to connect to each other in this way, in this union?
Yeah.
And again, like you said it beautifully. We can overanalyze as much as we can this wisdom, but all we're doing is we're just taking it further and further away from what it's supposed to do. So there's, like you said, there's an interpretation for everything. So the people watching this at home, they might be having a completely different experience of the same story, but it's all real and it all matters. So what I'm saying is, even though I might sound la-di-da like about the message, I'm actually a really big rebel in my heart. I
always call myself a lovable rebel.
Yeah, absolutely, because the narrow path is the path of the rebel.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's no more challenging path than the path of the inward path, of realizing that you are hopefulness, that you are God's hopefulness for humanity, and you have hopefulness for yourself as well. And it's beautiful. And people at the moment, they're only connecting to the superficial, the outside, their hopefulness for, what clothes can I have? Where can I live? What car can I drive? But there's this other hopefulness of projection, which is what I first spoke about, the hopefulness for humanity, that we're all, again, if you're staying in the illusion, that's how I see it, is people are intimidated when people like us speak about the hopefulness for humanity. And what I see is that people who've written 10 books and spoken for 40 years on global stages, stages, saying that when I've dedicated my whole life to cleaning the ocean, and we've moved the bar 5%, and maybe in the next 25 years we'll move the bar another 5%. And then I'm over here sitting in stillness and silence saying, hello, we can actually completely clean the whole ocean in 24 hours if we all just connect to this universal truth about there is no separation, about we are compassion, and compassion is an amazing force. And you use that compassion in that airport. When you were getting dragged through, your flame of compassion was kicking ass, because that's the incarnation of compassion. It is the incarnation of a flame, and this flame has no need for wood because it doesn't burn on fuel. It burns in of itself, and it burns when you express it, when you witness it, when you mirror that. When you mirror that second most powerful force in the universe, you are unstoppable. And that is why there is nothing for me to worry about in terms of having this 24-hour awakening, having this whole civilization built on love, is because it's inevitable.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. Just like there's been one enlightened person, that's a miracle in itself. And just we've had the privilege of having texture and video and being able to read these things is beautiful, but you have to read them where there's no following, there's no good, there's no bad, there is only universal truth. Because the second you try to get followers, the second you try to put things in a box, they're good, they're bad, we're good, you're bad. That's the ego, and that's the separation. That's the furthest you can be from truth. So what can we hope for humanity is only to see what's inside of us, what's inside of our heart. And inside of that heart is three things. It's God's grace, God's compassion, and God's divine love. And through these three forces, the whole world will change. Everything will change. Everything will go back to what's natural. So I can ramble on. I'm very good at rambling, but I don't want to ramble.
You're not rambling.
So much for us to talk about. But yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for the reflection and remembering.
You're so welcome. And yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? Is I think what I really love about this podcast is I think always we want to hear an answer, we want to hear an instant implementation, we want to hear a tool, we want to hear a now, tick and done. When actually, like what you say, so many people are going to watch us and they're all going to have a completely different experience. And that's the beauty of it, is because there actually isn't really an answer. There isn't really, well, please, obviously make sure you correct me if I'm not saying it rightly. But what I mean is essentially, it's actually good if you are left in that thought-provoking, analytical, not going into the mind too much, but wondering, what did I just hear? What just happened? Because that means that something has been planted, something has gone in, and whether it's immediate, whether it's not, whether it's something that comes up later in life, it's actually, it doesn't matter. It's two people connecting, sharing their truth, regardless of what other people think or believe, and just being more open to all the different versions of people in the world, all different ways that we think, all different ways that we are essentially, having this beautiful experience. So thank you.
I agree. And just like you said, the truth doesn't kneel, the truth doesn't bow, the truth doesn't question before it walks through a door, turns the doorknob and walks through. So that's why these conversations are truth. people feel it differently because it comes through as a frequency. Because there is no fear in this conversation, and people will get goosebumps, people will experience shifts in their body, because that's how you know it's not being interpreted by the mind, it's being interpreted by the heart, by the soul. And that's the greatest level of learning, which is that heart learning, that soul learning, when you go deeper than the mind. And I'm really, for me, I'm completely overwhelmed with gratitude, and find the need to bow all the time in this presence. But I also feel the need to do nothing, and then also the need to do something. And that's the beauty of the divine, is that whether you change the world in this lifetime and you achieve all your purposes, or you don't, it doesn't matter, because whatever you don't achieve, whatever divine purpose you don't accomplish, you just come back and do it again. But you might not come back in the next 100 years. You might come back in 1,000 years, because there's all divine timing. So you're here for a purpose in this lifetime, several purposes in this lifetime. But it's not just this lifetime, it's all your previous lifetimes and all the lifetimes that you'll have in the future. This divine purpose will just keep coming up. So that's the beauty of there's nothing left to do, and the beauty of there's lots to do. So
yeah,
that's a circle you can get stuck in, but it's a wonderful circle.
yeah. Yeah. I could just feel people like, so do I go to work tomorrow or not? Shall I pay my rent? What shall I do tomorrow? What shall I do today?
Everything's a circle, so it's all good. Call the landlord and tell him that. Everything's a circle. Your money is my money. Your home is my home.
This.
Yeah, there you go.
What's
non-duality.
This? You'll know soon. Just accept it for now and you'll know soon.
I know. Wouldn't that be funny? So that's the thing is again, these types of higher frequencies, this joyfulness, happiness, again, that's how you also know that a message is getting through to someone.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, if the truth is not the truth, and you try to ask questions of the truth that isn't the truth, you'll get straight away deflection, straight away, some sort of conversation that drifts away from the question. So the question will never be asked. There'll only be the right and the wrong. So they'll focus on the right and the wrong rather than the truth. So that's how you can discern what's the universal truth and what's someone's personal truth. is through that questioning, that openness of the question. So there's like I said, there's a lot of beauty in that. So I think what a lot of people struggle with is how to come across from that place. Because obviously, like, even with me, like, who am I to have these conversations? There's a lot of fear that would naturally occur, you would think, yes. So where do you go for this? So for me, I go to the blank page. So the analogy of the blank page is that I describe myself as three things. So I'm the clear blue sky, I'm the blank page, and I'm the salmon on the bank. So the analogy of the blank page is that if I'm the blank page, who is holding the pen? Who is the creator? And if I am the blank page and I'm not holding the pen and I'm not the creator, and there's something coming on that, there's something being written, there's something being drawn, there's a business going on to that page, or a house, an architecture of a house, or a book, or a story, or a journey. But if I'm not holding the pen, then where are these words? Where are these drawings? Where is this art coming from? And so if I am the blank page and I'm always the blank page, who is holding the pen? So if God is holding the pen, if the divine is holding the pen, and whatever goes on the blank page comes from the frequency of the divine, comes from the frequency of love, the most powerful frequency in the universe, people will come from miles around to witness what's on that blank page. People will cross the entire globe to come and witness what's on that blank page. Because when you create from the blank page, who is the creator and who is the blank page? And when you create from the blank page, there is no creating, there is only remembering. Because you do not remember the book that you write from divine wisdom. So, excuse me, because you remember the book you write from divine wisdom. You don't intellectualize. You paint the picture from divine wisdom. You don't think the picture. It comes through from being the blank page. And this is why you see like these, all these great people, and you go, where did they come from? They come from the blank page. Because when you are the blank page, who is holding the pen? So thank you for this reflection and remembering.
It's just ironic that the other day when I stumbled, and obviously we don't stumble across anything, I just went for a walk and I stumbled across an exhibition, and it was called Unfinished. And ironically, the first room you walk in, which is a square, says this is a circular room. This is a blue room. This room is a blue room. This is the sky. And there wasn't anything, I don't remember anything about salmon yet, but I'm waiting for you to get to that part. But ironically, there was...
That would be too spooky if there was a salmon there in that room.
But ironically, there was the thing that was making me and whether to go in was, it said unfinished, and right in front of you was a big, massive whiteboard, and it had a punch mark in it. And so you can imagine straight away people like, no, this is not art, I'm not paying for this. But I tell you something, that was not an exhibition, that was an experience. It was really, really... The
frequency.
And it was
That's
felt.
Beautiful.
And it was felt.
Thank you for that reflection and remembering. Because the thing is that people, they get caught in the fact that they feel the need to make millions of dollars and billions of dollars. And what I'm saying is that's perfectly natural and very important, but do it from the blank page, do it from God's grace, divine grace, do it from God's divine compassion, and do it from God's divine love. Because when you create from this place, there is no blank page and there is no creator. There is only emptiness. There is only remembering. There is only being the mirror of the divine. So you'll start writing, and you'll just write so fast, faster than you can even think it, is because it's a remembering, it's a reflection. So what I ask all the leaders in the world to do is to be the blank page. Because when you create from the blank page, you create from the highest frequency in the universe, in this universe and the divine universe. And when you create from this place, you are walking the narrow path, and you are witnessed by the divine. Because they relish in seeing your higher frequencies. They relish in seeing you walk your true path, because it's the most difficult thing to do in the universe. So return to the blank page, be the blank page, and you'll from this emptiness, you'll make all the millions that you need to make. You'll make all the abundance, all the safety that you need to make. And all you have to do is do nothing, is just be empty. And be the blank page.
I can really relate to that. Thank you. Even in the sense of this, like, the most inauthentic part for me is the introduction, and that's no reflection on the guest. It's very important for them to be highlighted, but for me it feels very practice, well, not rehearsed, and inauthentic. And then, so that part, even though I love that and I love the passion and what I put into it, I hope to make my guests feel really acknowledged and welcomed. It to me still isn't quite what this podcast represents. And the themes of what you're talking about, I feel like always followed me my whole life with dancing. I always never understood why I was labeled as, I was put in a box as a dancer because I couldn't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the way someone told me that it had to be done. And no, you don't, that you're emphasizing it too much. You're doing to this, you're doing to that. And painting, I just paint. People are like, but surely you know what to paint. No, I just know what to paint. And I think, again, going back to that lovable rebel, it's almost like to everyone else, why can't you just do what everyone else is doing? But it's just something within. Even when I go and do motivational speaking, I used to be terrified of that, but I just know what to say because it's much greater than me. And it's not even anything that's mine. None of it's mine. It's something that just, whether we want, it comes down and through and is created. But again, other people don't, which is fine, we're all on our different paths, but they can't quite understand it because it's like, but no, but you still have an idea. No, I just paint, I just dance, I just speak. And even sometimes when I'm like, I had to do the opposite of, I realized, sometimes actually you just want to let it out. It doesn't actually need to have a purpose. Just let it out. So thank you for that.
It was beautiful reflection. And I love it how you bring it back to the audience. And because that's a very powerful thing, is that even if we shift the frequency by a very small amount, it's going to have a great ripple effect on the universe. Just like affecting one soul is enough to affect all of humanity in a positive way or negative way. So that being said, I would love to tell you a story about a truth teacher, because it's a really good circle when it comes to the blank page. Mm-hmm. Because I think the main anyway, I don't want to bring my brain into it, because if I bring my brain into it, it's not what it needs to me. So just to continue the circle of the blank page, I want to tell you a story about a truth teller. And this truth teller found himself in a village, in a monastery. And just like a lot of truth tellers before him, he found that the monastery was too noisy. Even the stillness and the silence of the monastery was still too noisy. So with the blessing of the other monks, he asked to seek solitude in the forest, away from the monastery, and seek the wisdom of the trees and the wisdom of the silence and the stillness. And with the blessing of the other monks, he left the monastery for this life of solitude. And as he walked into the forest, he found a place, and he wasn't a carpenter, he wasn't a handyman, but he built himself a humble shelter. And he stayed there for a few days, turned into a few weeks, few months, few years go past. And he's sitting there and nothing profound is coming through, but he has this inner compass that's telling him that he's in the right place. That there's lessons here, there's wisdom here. So with that trust and that surrender, he stayed in the forest. And one night there was a storm that hadn't been seen in decades. And as he was staying in his humble shelter, he was scared from this storm. So he started to chant. But the wind was so loud, and the rain was so loud, and the thunder and lightning was so loud, he couldn't hear his own chants. So he started to scream in fear and terror as he heard trees and branches crack around him and the thud of entire trees landing around him. he realized that his humble shelter wouldn't survive a tree striking it. So after a while of fear and suffering and trauma and screaming, there was nothing left for him to do in this storm other than surrender to God and put his life in God's hands. And as he found that stillness and silence, hours passed and the storm passed and day came, and he emerged from his humble shelter and rejoiced, I'm alive. And as he looked around, that smile quickly went away, because he observed a huge tree in its prime, a strong tree, had landed just 1 foot away from his humble shelter. This beautiful tree in its prime had been struck down by the storm. But he didn't just see the trees in their prime, he also see the old trees. He could see the old trees that were snapped in half. And he could see the young trees pulled from their roots and ripped out of the earth and laid on the ground to die. And he could also see that there were the dead leaves, but amongst the dead leaves were the green leaves, and amongst the green leaves were baby leaves still attached to the twig, to the stick. And as he walked through this storm of disaster and chaos, he asked God, why? Why strike down those in their prime? Why strike down the old? Why strike down the young? Why strike down the ones still attached to the tree, the babies? And in that question, some wisdom came. And as he walked through the forest by himself, this wisdom spoke to him. God doesn't look at this world the way that we look at this world with the mind. God doesn't see life and death like we see life and death. God doesn't judge, because God knows the truth. The truth is that we're all eternal. We're all divine. We never die. And we are all God's children. And God loves us and cares for us, just like we love and care about our family and ourselves. Even more than we care about our family and ourselves sometimes, because it's a divine love. It's a love that cannot be explained with the physical. There is not a physical feeling of this love. There is not a word of this love. And through this divine wisdom and divine love, this truth teller returned to the monastery, and he shared his wisdom of the stillness and of the silence and of the truth that there is no life and there is no death. There is only God's divine grace, God's divine wisdom, God's divine compassion, and God's divine essence of love. Thank you for this reflection and remembering.
You're welcome. Wow. Powerful. Lots of food for thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Beautiful stillness and silence to be had. So there's only one more left, is the salmon on the bank, the much anticipated salmon on the bank. What is this salmon on the bank he speaks of? As the viewers hold their phone with anticipation. So I'm very happy to move forward with the salmon on the bank. Otherwise, I'm happy to reflect on this past story I just shared. I'm very happy to
feel like,
leave that up to you.
Sometimes, and I would love your take on this, I think sometimes some things are best left just for people to absorb in the way that they think.
I love that. Thank you for that time to reflect and to remember. So I am the salmon on the bank. I am the clear blue sky. I am the blank page. I am the salmon on the bank. And I sit next to the stream. What is the stream? The stream is the stream of life. And in that stream, there are salmons. And those salmons are swimming against the tide. Those are upstream swimming salmons. Those are the salmons using force, using ego, using by me, believing the illusion is real, and swimming against the current. Those are the upstream swimming salmon. And those are the 8 billion souls we find with us on this earth. And then there are the salmons that have worked out the illusion is an illusion. So they become the downstream swimming salmon. They're not swimming against the current anymore. They're going down the stream. They're the downstream swimming salmon because they've worked out it's easier to be a downstream swimming salmon than an upstream swimming salmon because they've worked out that that's not their divine purpose. That's not their journey. Their journey is to be the downstream swimming salmon. But I am not the downstream swimming salmon. I am the salmon on the bank.
You're the sunbathing one.
I'm the salmon that's worked out that the stream is an illusion, that there is no swimming upstream, swimming downstream, because both of it is still in the stream. And the stream is the illusion. But the illusion matters. It's an important illusion. So as I sit as the salmon on the bank, occasionally I'll put my fin in the stream and grab hold of a salmon. And that salmon will resist and smack away my fin and keep swimming down the stream. But I am not the salmon in the stream. I am the salmon on the bank. So every now and then, I will dip my fin inside the stream and grab hold of a salmon. And sometimes that salmon will come on the bank and stay for a while.
For a little holiday.
And then jump, and then jump back into the stream. But I'm not the salmon in the stream. I'm the salmon on the bank. So occasionally, I'll dip my fin into the stream and grab hold of another salmon and pull that salmon onto the bank. And very, very, very occasionally, that salmon will stay with me. Stay with me for eternity and become another salmon on the bank. Thank you for this reflection and remembering.
You're very welcome. It's powerful.
I know. I really love that one because there's a lot to be said about the downstream swimming salmon.
Yes.
Because just like the downstream swimming salmon has experienced happiness and blissfulness, they're believing that happiness and blissfulness is real. So don't be the downstream swimming salmon, be the salmon on the bank, because that is your natural state. Because we were never meant to compete. We were never meant to believe the ego. We were never meant to worship fear. We were never meant to be separate from each other. We were all meant to be in our natural state. And in our natural state of love, we are happy. In our natural state of love, we are blissful. And in our natural state of love, we are in the essence of God's divine love. So be the salmon on the bank.
No, it's super powerful because, and obviously this is my reflection and my take. This is not at all what it is. It's just my personal take from it. But it's almost like you start that way and then you think you're doing the right thing, going that way, when essentially it's not either way.
You understand.
Yeah.
That's the hard part to understand, but you got
Yeah.
it.
Because you are essentially, and this was pretty much what I noticed when, without any labeling or anything like that, but when I felt like I'd thought I'd found the right way, the right answer, the right community, whatever. And essentially it was kind of just the same, but looked different. Instead of the pub, it was singing bowls.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
again, that's not, this is a very like light-hearted way of saying it, and there's exceptional things that lots of people are doing in this world, regardless of what hobbies, what interests they have. We're all very different, and that's the whole reason why everything was created, because everything was created for the purpose of someone to have whatever enjoyment it is that they want to have. But
It's all meaningful. It's all meaningful.
Yeah.
Even the chaos is meaningful. Even the storm is meaningful. Even the fire is meaningful. It's all meaningful, and it all matters. So going to work matters. These things matter, but it's the essence that you do things. It's
Yes.
If you're coming from the clear blue sky, if you're coming from the blank page, if you're coming from the salmon on the bank. And what you might find is that, okay, maybe you're going to quit your job on Monday to become a painter or to become a dancer or whatever it is. But that's up to you. That's the beauty of your divine purpose and your divine path, is it's up to you. At any point, you can sit in silence and sit in stillness and experience universal truth. And through the steps that we all know, I call them keys, but everyone has the keys. We all have the keys. You don't need to look outside of you to get the keys. So just remember, all I'm asking is just remember where you put the keys.
Yes.
And if you can't remember, find a teacher that can help you remember, not give you his keys, because those are his keys, but find a teacher that can help you remember where you put your divine keys.
Yeah.
Because in the end of the day, we are extraordinary. The thing about humans is our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are great beyond measure. We are great beyond comprehension. And you see this if you look at the history, if you look at today, look at the architecture, look at the artists that we've had, look at the authors, look at the visionaries, look at the motivational speakers, the spiritual guides that we've had. It's all there. We don't need to write any more songs. We don't need to write any more books. We don't need to do anything. We just need to all stop and sit in stillness and sit in silence and just remember the truth. And when we do that, we will return to our natural state. Because in a natural state of fear, we are experiencing scarcity. But in a natural state of love, you will experience the natural state of abundance. And you will feel the inside abundance, and that will create the outside abundance. And everyone will be seen, and everyone will be enough, and there'll be no competition. There'll be no consumerism. There'll be no conquering, because we will return to our natural state. And if you don't believe there's a natural state, well, then you need to question, where does that thought come from? If you believe that there is no natural state, go to where that question comes from. And that's where you start.
Beautiful.
Great reflection and remembering. So you now know a little bit more about me and about what I'm doing and what I'm up to. But I do like to talk a little bit more about the keys, because I feel as though to give people the whole story and then to leave them without the keys,
yeah,
it's a disservice to them.
Yeah.
But it's really whatever they want to do with the keys, it's up to them.
Yes.
It's up to them. So we've spoken about the keys and the illusion. So the first key of the illusion is courage, because that's the corridor of love. And from there, you'll get to unconditional love, which is the highest frequency in the illusion. And then from here, what happens is when you reach unconditional love, you'll be naked. So all constructs of you will be gone, all labels of you, all systems that you've been in. So the system of this reality will be gone, and you'll be naked in unconditional love. And then if you have anything that you haven't dealt with your entire life, any trauma, any ego, that'll be there. So what you have to do is you just have to keep staying in this state till everything goes. And then in this state, in this circle, you sit with your inner child. So your inner child is always the divine feminine and the divine masculine at the same time. So you sit in this place here, and you're naked and you're in the presence of God. Because in unconditional love, in stillness and silence, in removing of everything, and you return to your beyond the mind, the no mind, the non-duality. So no duality between you and God. So when you're in the presence of God, that's all happens in 0.25 seconds. So all these things are happening in 0.25 seconds, and then we're looking away. So how do we not look away to the higher dimension? Is by remembering where we put the keys. So the first key to the higher dimension, and it's a similar key that we all know before, but it's the key of divine forgiveness. But it's more than what you think. It's a lot more than what you think, in the sense that you're forgiving yourself for believing the illusion is real, forgiving yourself for believing the ego is real, forgiving yourself for believing the mind and the body is real, forgiving yourself, believing your family is real, believing yourself that your title is real, that it matters. So all these things you need to forgive. But there's something that's far more important than forgiving all of the illusion, is forgiving yourself for forgetting your divinity, forgiving yourself for forgetting why you came and forgetting your divine purpose, and forgiving yourself for turning away from the hopefulness that you have for yourself, and forgiving yourself for forgetting the hopefulness you have for humanity and every human being and every animal and this whole earth. Because you have to forgive yourself for turning away from divine hopefulness. And you also need to forgive yourself for turning away from the most powerful force in the universe. Well, there's two: divine compassion, where God looks at you with compassion and looks at all things with compassion, become the mirror of this force, because it's the second most powerful force in the universe. And then the most powerful force in the universe, which is divine love. So all this will happen in 0.25 seconds, but the key that you need is divine forgiveness. Forgiving yourself firstly for believing that the illusion is real. So both the happiness you feel in the illusion is real, and the unhappiness you in the illusion is real. Then you got to forgive yourself for believing that your hopefulness isn't real and that your greatness isn't real. Because your greatness can't be comprehended by the mind. So your entire life you've been avoiding your greatness. Your entire life you've been avoiding your hopefulness for yourself and your hopefulness for all of humanity. And this forgiveness of this section is harder than the illusion.
Yeah.
Okay? But all these keys, they're all accessible to you because they're accessible to me. And because they're accessible to me, they're accessible to you. So after you go through this circle, you get to the point of the next key, which is divine surrender. So through divine forgiveness, you'll get to the corridor of the doorway of divine surrender. And you'll go through divine surrender with this key. And that's when you surrender to everything. You surrender to the divine wisdom of the universe. You surrender to questioning that you don't have all the wisdom and you don't know all the wisdom, and you'll have all your questions answered in this surrender. So if people ask themselves, oh, who am I? Well, through forgiveness, divine forgiveness, and then through that divine surrender, you'll have entire lifetimes of wisdom that you'll remember, and it'll happen in 0.25 seconds. So in 0.25 seconds, you'll learn 80 years of wisdom, of divine wisdom through this surrendering, through this rawness. So when a lot of people say, oh, you should run a marathon because you learn who you are when you run the marathon, you learn who you are in the illusion. You learn who you are in the ego when you run the marathon. And all of this is very important, don't get me wrong, but it has no importance at all. The only real importance is this divine wisdom. And how do you get there is by sitting in silence and sitting in stillness. Because the hardest thing for the human beings to do is to sit in the presence of the divine, because they always turn their head. So through the divine key of surrender, all wisdom will be shown to you. So I've just told you a whole lot of stuff about the illusion. So the illusion's very important and the divine's really important. So where is the treasure? Because people, you're saying, I'm telling you nothing's going on, all these things. So people ask me, they say, where is the treasure? So the treasure is the next key, and this circle has a lot of circles in it. The next key is the key of divine compassion. This divine compassion manifests itself as a flame which burns within itself. And in the divine, this flame is the treasure of the divine. This is the only treasure in the universe that has any value, is the flame of compassion. The flame of compassion in this universe, in this illusion, is very important. The most important is the flame of compassion in the divine. The flame of compassion when you're experiencing emptiness. So the only thing that we need to do in this lifetime, the only thing we need to do, amongst all the other things, is sit in silence and stillness and add to the most valuable treasure in the universe, which is the treasure of compassion, which manifests itself as a flame which burns upon itself. It has no fuel. So how do you increase the flame of a flame that has no fuel? Is by sitting with it, being the essence of it, seeing no separation between you and that, the being of the flame of compassion. And when you be the flame of compassion, the flame of compassion will shine bright. And when that flame of compassion shines bright in this universe and the divine, all the awakened beings of the divine will witness you. And you'll not only have the wisdom of living 80-year lifespan in 0.25 seconds, you'll also have the wisdom of divine beings that have been here for thousands, if not millions of years. So through the flame of compassion, the greatest flame in the universe, this is how you store treasures in the divine. And this is the key. This is the key to compassion, the divine key of compassion, very important key. But then there's the last key, the key of divine love. This is the realest feeling you'll ever know. It's more real than anything you can experience in this physical form. It's so real that I live there the majority of time. And this is the illusion to me, and that is real. And that is how divine love is. and how do I explain divine love is in three ways. Divine love, when you use the key of divine love and you walk through that doorway, you will walk in the forest. You will walk on the planet that is just a forest. And then you will realize that there are no trees and there are no earth. There is no earth and there is no you, because there's no separation between you and the trees and the earth. And you will walk across the cosmos and you will sit in stillness and silence. And you will watch entire galaxies, entire planets being created in a single breath. And this feeling will be more real to you than any feeling you've ever had in this dimension. And then you will swim in the sea on the planet that has no land. This sea doesn't experience any light because there's no light on this planet. There's no wind. There's no predators, there's no noise, there's no sound. And you will swim in this ocean. And you will realize that the ocean is not made of water, that the ocean is made of divine love. And then you will realize that there is no ocean. Because just like when you fill a cup and you put it in the ocean, where is the cup and where is the ocean? And you will experience the emptiness, the non-duality of divine love. You will swim in the ocean with no water, with water made of divine love, the endless ocean of divine love. And that will become the most realest place you know, more real than anything you could experience here. So all I'm saying is live there. Live there, but also remember that you live here. And you're here for a divine purpose. And you're here to return everyone to what's natural. And what is natural is the return of this earth to the meek and to the gentle. We want leaders who are meek. We want leaders who are gentle, because that's how God intended it. We do not need ruthless leaders run by the ego, run by the illusion of separation. We need leaders who are walking in the grace of divine love, the grace of divine compassion, the two most powerful forces in the universe. This force is so powerful that fear cannot even drift into this dimension, cannot even survive in this realm. That darkness does not even exist in this realm. That ego does not even exist in this realm. So sit in the stillness and sit in the silence and be with the trees and walk in the cosmos and swim in the ocean, but also be here. Also be here and be a mirror to all the other beings here of God's love, because when they see God's love in us, they will remember too. They will return too to what's natural, and there'll be a 24-hour awakening on this planet. And we will have 8 billion humans who are getting ready to let this planet support billions and hundreds of billions and trillions of humans for the next millions and millions of years on this planet. Because when there's hundreds of millions of humans, there's hundreds of millions of Elon Musk. And if we have all these Elon Musks not living in fear, not living in ego, not living in separation, but we have all these Elon Musks living in love, focused on union, focused on non-duality, focused on truth, we will create a heaven on this earth, just same heaven on this earth, that is the same heaven in the divine. And there'll be no need for childhood obesity, child going hunger at night, children going hungry. There'll be no need for women's rights, because every woman would be seen, every woman would walk without fear. There'll be no need for homelessness. It'll be a relic of the past, because every man will have abundance and every man will have enough. And this is why I'm here. I'm here to be that mirror, and I'm here to speak to all the leaders, all the billionaires and all the millionaires, to see me as they see themselves, because there is no separation. We are all here to protect each other, to collaborate with each other, to love each other, and to walk in God's divine grace and God's divine light. Thank you so much for this reflection and remembering.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. So real, so raw, and so more than just words, a transmission, you know, of more than that, just a knowing, a believing, and yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I really, like I said, this was almost like a reintroduction to the world for me. So I just thank you so much for creating this safe space. And it is a safe space. And that's all we need in this world. We just need a couple of spaces that are safe spaces for us to share the wisdom. And it's got nothing to do with age. It's got nothing to do with grey hair or what color hair you have or what religion you follow or any of these tribal things. It's got to do with honesty, honesty and compassion and courage and love. And in the end of the day, all I feel is gratitude. And I think anyone who's watching this podcast, that's all I could ever hope for you, is to feel the gratitude of this life, of this earth, of these animals, of these other humans, because it's if you really look at it, it's the most beautiful thing you could comprehend. You'll look at a cloud next time you see a cloud and you'll burst into joy, you'll burst into laughter for no reason, because that's the truth. That's the reality, is everything is just beautiful and miraculous and full of joy and happiness. So that being said, it's so nice to reintroduce myself to all the other souls. And I'm really grateful to be walking this path. And thank you so much, Shel, for creating this safe space for this universal truth.
You are so welcome, and wow, thank you for all your sharing, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate all that you're doing, and yeah, I'm excited to see how it all comes into fruition. So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.